We have been telling you how Europe is reeling under a heat wave, and it's not a usual heat wave. The soaring temperatures are making people sick and affecting day-to-day lives. So what exactly has changed this year, and why is it so hot in Europe? Azores High is a high-pressure system. It usually sits off Spain. But this year, something has changed. The high pressure grew stronger and larger, which is why it pushed farther north, bringing high temperatures to the United Kingdom and France. When something like this happens, winds are expected to turn towards the south, and that is exactly what happened, bringing all the hot air up from North Africa and the Sahara. Every July brings long days and short nights, which means strong sunshine builds up. But the extreme weather this year has led to warm temperatures even during the night. On most nights, temperatures have remained above 20 degrees Celsius in central England, and data shows that this is affecting sleep cycles for many people.
Well, it's climate change, because it's obviously way hotter on average more often than it used to be like 10 years ago. And it's also too hot for everyone to cope with because we're not used to it. So yeah, it's too hot and it's climate change and it's just going to get worse.
So how hot is it expected to get? There is a strong chance that this week the UK will experience its hottest day of the year. This week temperatures are expected to surpass the 32.7 degrees Celsius mark. There is also a slight chance that the all-time UK record could be beaten, which is 38.7 degrees Celsius. This was recorded in July 2019. Scorching temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius will continue in Western Europe. At the end of the week, temperatures will be close to 40 to 45 degrees Celsius across France and Spain. Europe as a whole has just experienced its second warmest June on record. And the worrying part is that the heat wave is expected to only get worse in the future unless drastic steps are taken to tackle climate change. The current heat wave is a dangerous reminder of the accelerating impact of global warming. The link between what Europe's crisis is looking like and climate change is becoming increasingly clear. Scientists are clear that human-caused global heating is making the heat waves more intense and even more likely. When it comes to summer heat, climate change is a complete game changer. As I speak, it's turning what was once called exceptional heat into very common summer conditions. And that brings us to the immediate question: is Europe prepared to deal with these rising temperatures? What remains to be seen is how well the Europeans will adapt to the harsh reality of a warming planet. Heat waves in Europe are causing soaring temperatures, forest fires, buckled train tracks, and warnings over air quality and water shortages. In fact, Europe is heating up faster than other places. Historically, the European continent has been cold, with very cold winters and cool summers, as most European capitals were developed at a time before air conditioning. Planners had to design buildings to respond to changing environmental conditions without mechanical assistance. European countries have narrow streets, dense residential areas, and buildings and houses built with small windows. Even the material used for the buildings has a higher thermal mass, which has the ability to absorb as well as store heat. While the older buildings still had a system where you could rely on internal climate control like high ceilings and big windows, in modern construction, the greater use of glass in the construction of newer homes and apartments left them extremely vulnerable to climate change. In the UK, many buildings are designed to maximize the amount of sunlight that streams in, especially during longer winters. In many older and smaller European cities, the older buildings often have poorer populations that are more vulnerable to heat stress. And on the other hand, hot countries like India have traditionally used materials to keep houses cool. In Yemen's ancient walled city of Sana'a, mud skyscrapers soar high into the sky. With the planet getting hotter due to human-caused climate change, Europe will need to invest in infrastructure that is prepared for a climate-resilient future. Presently, the changing climatic conditions pose a risk to the existing transport infrastructure. Infrastructure is built on the basis of a country's historical climate variation. Extreme high temperatures have an impact on road pavements through increased levels of rutting, while railway tracks have a tendency to buckle under extreme heat. Buildings and homes in Europe have been designed to keep warm and not cool. In fact, the idea of air conditioning in Europe is a foreign concept. With the planet getting hotter due to human-caused climate change, Europeans will have to rethink their opposition to air conditioning. Less than 5% of all European households have air conditioning, compared with over 90% in the United States. And that has made them among the lowest users of the cooling machines in the world. In fact, according to the International Energy Agency, of the 2.8 billion people living in the hottest parts of the world, only 8% currently have air conditioning. In a survey, European respondents said that they see climate change threatening their place of residence. 29% of Europeans believing that eventually they will have to move to another country or region because of the problems due to climate change. However, we have one planet and all of us will have to deal with the threats that the world is heating up and the challenges that that brings along. To combat climate change, a green transition that is low carbon and resilient is required, while also making sure that no one is left behind. For more on this, with us on the broadcast is Louis Torrent. He is an international consultant on climate change and an advisor to international institutions like the European Union. Louis, at a time when Europe has been dealing with an energy crisis, how prepared is it really to meet its climate targets and combat warming?
Hello, thanks for having me in your program. I must say that Europe is not really well prepared for such an event because in the past these events used to happen every several years, but now this year we have experienced 3 heat waves in 3 consecutive months. It's such an unprecedented fact that has led to rethink the way we have been developing cities and even households. And this is happening, let's remember, in the middle of the worst energy crisis ever in our continent because the Russian invasion to Ukraine. So new developments are expected to fast track in the next few years.
According to you, is Europe taking this climate crisis challenge seriously enough? There have been pledges, a series of commitments. To what extent, though, are they actually translating into action?
Well, there are several plans already approved by the European Union, and most of the member states agreed. There's a wide consensus on this rapid need to undertake the green transition, especially when it comes to the energy transition. And when it comes to the heat waves, is a very punctual reminder that climate change is here to stay, and it's only going to worsen in the future. There are investments starting to be mobilized. But of course, this will not happen overnight. It takes time, it takes planning, and it takes trillions in investments. So cities are slowly adapting, investing in green infrastructure, in blue infrastructure, even households. There's hundreds of thousands of homes in Europe are investing in AC conditioners, which in the past they were not necessary, but now they are because of the heat waves that we are experiencing in the last few years.
Right. In terms of the action that is required at this point, to what extent would you say that the plans actually meet the expectations that have been laid out?
Well, the theory is promising. The action might not be that promising, but the European Union has approved several plans, including an important one, which is a big renovation of households. As you are aware of, Europe is an old continent. Most of the households are very old. Some of them even older than 100 years old. So it takes time and a lot of resources to start renovating. But there are lots of incentives by city councils, even states, for investing in renovating the windows, in renovating the cooling systems, even the heating systems in the phase of the energy transition that we are undertaking. So it's in some countries, like in the UK, they went a little bit faster. They invested heavily in energy efficiency. In other countries, maybe in the Mediterranean area, because usually there were milder temperatures, this transition was not that fast. But certainly there are speedy movements to increase action in these areas, especially in energy efficiency, in renewable energy, and in bringing new cooling systems, especially in summers, which are getting longer and longer over time.
We appreciate very much you joining us on the broadcast and sharing those perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.